The Apollo Lunar Legacy, a definitive report on the 12 who walked on the Moon and the future of human exploration. Since the dawn of human spaceflight, only 12 people have ever set foot on the surface of the Moon. All were American astronauts, and all were part of NASA's Apollo program between 1969 and 1972. Their footprints remain undisturbed, silent reminders of a time when humanity reached beyond Earth for the first time. The roster is well established. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, Pete Conrad, Alan Bean, Alan Shepard, Edgar Mitchell, David Scott, James Irwin, John Young, Charlie Duke, Gene Cernan, and Harrison Schmitt. Together, they carried out 6 lunar landing missions, each one building on the last. Among them, Alan Shepard holds the title of the oldest moonwalker. When he stepped onto the lunar surface during Apollo 14 in February 1971, he was 47 years old. Shepard was already famous as the first American in space. On the Moon, he became equally well known for hitting 2 golf balls with a makeshift club.
I have a 8-6 iron on the bottom of it. In my left hand, I have a little white pellet that somebody in the mine's an American. I drop it down. Unfortunately, the suit is so stiff I can't do it with 2 hands, but I'm going to try a little sand trap shot here.
At the other end of the age scale was Charles Duke. He was 36 when he landed with Apollo 16 in April 1972.
That's what I'm looking for.
Good show. I told him you were.
Whoop!
Okay. We see that one went all the way in.
Not quite.
Duke left behind a family photo on the lunar surface, a gesture that brought a human touch to the stark landscape. Each of the 12 men brought his own character to the adventure. Armstrong, first to walk on the Moon, became a quiet professor after leaving NASA.
We have booster ignition and liftoff of Space Shuttle Columbia.
Lending his expertise to investigations of both Apollo and shuttle accidents. Aldrin used his experience to promote concepts for interplanetary travel, including human missions to Mars. Pete Conrad, with his humor and precision, not only walked on the Moon, but later led the crew that saved Skylab, America's first space station. Alan Bean left spaceflight behind for a career as an artist, painting lunar scenes textured with imprints of his own spacesuit boots. Alan Shepard's career spanned from America's first spaceflight to a lunar command. Edgar Mitchell turned toward questions of consciousness, founding the Institute of Noetic Sciences. David Scott, commander of Apollo 15, used the new Lunar Rover to drive across the surface and famously dropped a hammer and feather to prove Galileo's theory in a vacuum. His crewmate, James Irwin, later dedicated his life to Christian ministry. John Young's career stretched across Gemini, Apollo, and Shuttle. He was known as the astronaut's astronaut. Charlie Duke became a businessman and motivational speaker, carrying the impact of his mission into his later life. Gene Cernan, commander of Apollo 17, became the last person to walk on the Moon. His final words spoke of leaving with peace and hope for all mankind. Harrison Schmitt, the only professional geologist to set foot there, collected samples that transformed our understanding of lunar history before embarking on a career in politics. The missions themselves grew more ambitious with time. Apollo 11 was a proof of concept. Armstrong and Aldrin spent barely over 20 hours on the surface, and their single moonwalk lasted just 2.5 hours. By Apollo 17, astronauts were living on the moon for more than 75 hours, conducting 3 excursions totaling over 22 hours. The Lunar Rover expanded their reach, turning landings into mobile geological expeditions. Sample returns also grew, from 21 kilograms on Apollo 11 to more than 100 kilograms on Apollo 17. These numbers reflect the program's progression, from short, cautious stays focused on survival to extended scientific expeditions that push the boundaries of exploration. The Apollo program was shaped by the Cold War. Its aim was clear: land on the moon before the Soviets and prove American superiority in science and technology. Once that goal was met, the missions ended. The last crew left the moon in December 1972. Today, NASA prepares to return with Artemis. But Artemis is not Apollo repeated. Its goals are broader and longer term. Instead of racing to plant a flag, Artemis seeks to build a sustainable human presence on the moon. The target is the lunar South Pole, where water ice hidden in shadowed craters may provide fuel and life support for future explorers. Artemis crews are also more diverse. Plans include landing the first woman and the first person of color on the moon, alongside international partners like Canada, Europe, and Japan. The program's architecture reflects this new philosophy. Apollo was government-controlled from end to end. Artemis relies on partnerships with commercial companies and international agencies. The Space Launch System and Orion spacecraft provide transport from Earth. SpaceX's Starship is being developed to ferry astronauts to the lunar surface. The Lunar Gateway, a small space station in orbit around the moon, will serve as both staging point and science platform. Where Apollo was a sprint, Artemis is a marathon. Its purpose is not a single demonstration, but the laying of foundations for a future beyond Earth. The 12 Apollo moonwalkers remain unique in human history. Their achievements stand as proof of what can be done with determination, resources, and vision. Their personal stories show how such experiences can shape an entire life, whether through art, science, politics, or faith. Artemis now builds on that legacy. It seeks not only to return, but to stay, to use the moon as a testing ground for the next great step, human missions to Mars. From Armstrong's first step in 1969 to the footsteps still to come, the arc of exploration continues. The moon was not the end. It was the beginning. The Apollo 12 lit the torch. Artemis carries it forward.